Sorry, I don't want to pinch your... Are you scared I'm going to pinch yours?
Well, the fact that you're struggling up here in this upper part. I got it. Welcome to the Gospel Truth. I'm Dean.
And I'm Audrey, and today we are celebrating the third Sunday of Lent.
We're kind of like halfway. We're getting close to halfway.
Yeah, we're a little close to halfway. And this week, we'd like to focus our reflection on this theme of wisdom. And with wisdom,
big brain,
there's another side of that coin, and it's foolishness. So a lot of great things to unpack there. But before we get into that, do you want to remind everyone what the Gospel Truth is all about and why we're here?
Absolutely. So the Gospel Truth is Audrey and I sharing our thoughts about the faith, the Word, happenings in the church. Hopefully by doing that, we can understand our faith a little bit better, and maybe you as the viewers can get something out of it as well. And actually, because our theme this week is related to wisdom and foolishness, one of the things we also want to remind you is that not once do we ever claim that our opinions and our views are dogmatic or completely
they're
right.
Not. They're far from it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, if you always think about our sort of purpose, we're trying to understand our faith a little bit better too.
Yeah.
So if there are things you might disagree with or things that might not sit right with you,
totally okay.
That's fine.
You should, maybe. Like,
Exactly.
it's fine. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Again, to echo what Dean said, we're just trying to understand our own faith, and this is a fun little way for us to do it.
Yeah.
And we just want to share our findings with you, and in case there are any other folks out there who might find themselves in the same mind space as us. But again, our wisdom is no greater than what you hear from our priests in their homilies and anyone in the clergy or anyone at all. So that's timely.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this week's readings.
Do it.
So these readings this week, if you happen to have some members of your parish that are going to be baptized on Easter, you're going to get a different set of readings for those. Those are the readings of the first scrutiny. So in case that happens, you'll be like, are they reading the same things? No, we're reading something different. These are if you're not having any people in your parish being baptized. Okay, so first reading, the 10 Commandments.
Classic.
Yeah, a classic, right? So we're not going to spend too much time going over the 10 Commandments. You know them. God gives them to Moses. Moses takes them down, and he's like, uh-oh, they're praising a golden calf and has to get them again. But yeah, it's just a story of the 10 Commandments. In our psalm, we see here that it says, Lord, you have the words of everlasting life. But I actually want to focus more on the psalm verses. It says, the law of the Lord is perfect. The precepts of the Lord are right. Fear of the Lord is pure. God's ordinances are more precious than gold. Basically saying what comes from God is so valuable. All right. In the second reading, letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, St. Paul is basically saying again that God's foolishness is wiser than our wisdom. That God's weakness is stronger than our strength. Right? And so we kind of look for signs sometimes. We might not understand what God is sending to us, but God knows. God knows way more than we do. And then finally in our gospel, Jesus gets a little mad.
Yep.
It's probably the maddest he is in all of the gospels.
Yeah.
He goes to the temple in Jerusalem. He sees people selling stuff in the temple.
Yeah.
And he goes crazy. He just starts driving them out. He's like,
He's like, get out of my father's home.
What? Like, this is my father's house.
Yeah.
And what do the people in the temple say? They're like, who are you to say that this is your father's house? What sign can you give us for doing this? And you know what Jesus says? Destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days.
And they're like, oh, it's been this took 46
years to build.
You're going to build it in 3 days.
You're going to rebuild it? Come on. Who do you think you are? Right? And
God's son.
Yeah, right? Like, you think you're God's son? Like, no way.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is basically saying that he's actually going to raise himself from the dead, but the humans don't know that yet.
Yeah.
So
that's like the third gospel reading where Jesus is saying something and no one can understand. They're just like, rise from the dead in 3 days? Like it's just a crazy time for everyone.
For everyone, right?
Yeah.
They're just trying to comprehend everything that he's saying and cannot grasp it. So yeah, that's your TLDR.
Yeah, that was a fun little one.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back on what we said we wanted to reflect on like this theme of wisdom, I mean, the takeaway here is that God's wisdom and what he knows is greater than anything we think we know or we think we'll understand or will ever comprehend, right? So what we think we understand in this lifetime as humans is nothing compared to what God knows and his wisdom.
I am pretty wisdomous.
Yeah, you just see this common theme throughout the readings that whatever God has to offer us is just infinitely beyond what we could ever possibly understand, comprehend, whatever, right?
And it's not like he wants to keep that to himself, I think he wants us to know what he knows. He sends us signs on the daily. We ask for it, but maybe because we're so human, we become anchored to this idea of what the answers to our prayers look like, or what the signs to what we're asking for will take shape as. And so we kind of have these blinders, like these spiritual blinders on about like, okay, the answer has to look like this, and that we have tunnel vision and blinders and we completely miss the sign that God gives us. I mean, in the temple where there's a marketplace, people have been looking for a savior, right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, and he's literally in front of them, and they're just like, oh, you think you're God's son? Like, how dare you say that?
Exactly.
And they have no idea,
right,
that he's right there.
And so one thing that might come to mind is you might get discouraged. You're like, okay, so we're basically saying that God has this wisdom that we will never really be able to fathom or understand. But we don't really see it that way. We're a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my teacher cap on again to explain myself. So there it is, I think. And one of the great things about the schools that I've learned at and the schools that I teach at is they preach this idea of lifelong learning. That you spend your entire life always curious and always trying to learn. And for me, that's a really beautiful thing, because if you choose to stop learning, then, you know, what else is there for you? And that's part of what the spiritual journey is all about, right? That although you may never achieve that perfect knowledge that God has, part of the journey is the struggle. The struggle of learning consistently throughout your life, more about what you believe, more about your faith.
Yes, and I mean, this is what Lent is all about, right? Lent is about the struggle and being aware of our struggles and its impact on us, and how we become better humans on the other side of these hurdles that are thrown at us. I mean, again, like, we don't want to assume, like, you know, we don't want to become discouraged, right?
Yes.
I think what's most important to focus on is if you're able to kind of work through the emotions, that the person that you are on the other side of the struggle, once you kind of beat it, that is what matters.
Exactly. Right. Don't assume that it's just some futile pursuit.
Yeah. Right. Don't be discouraged. It's not for naught.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not for naught.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll put my teacher cap on again.
Yeah.
Put it back on. But there was something I remember reading on Freakonomics about what it takes to be a good parent, or I might have heard it on a podcast about what it takes to be a good parent.
Yeah.
And, you know, every parent wants to be a good parent for their children. And so maybe you decide to buy a lot of parenting books and read parenting blogs.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you are never, ever going to read all of the books and all of the content about what it takes to be a good parent.
Yeah.
But researchers found that it's not the amount of books that you read, but rather your willingness to read those books, your willingness to dive in.
Yeah.
That was a great predictor of whether you ended up raising a pretty good child or when we're a good parent. So really it comes down to your willingness to actively participate in your faith journey.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Are you willing to put in the effort and meet these struggles head on? We've been doing Stations of the Cross every week for Lent. And one thing that just reminded me of, how many times did Jesus fall?
Yes.
And get back up again.
3 times.
Right?
Yeah.
And so these, he did not give up, right? He faced his struggle and powered through, knowing and having faith that on the other side, there are better things ahead.
Exactly.
So as we continue our Lenten journeys and really start to reflect on, what did we commit to doing more of, less of this Lent, let's remind ourselves not to be too hard on ourselves when we kind of like stumble a bit, and just get up. If we fall. Jesus fell, he was human, he got up 3 times.
Yeah.
And he made it to the end. So we could do the same, and just don't feel discouraged, and just see it as an opportunity to grow and learn, and see how you can use your struggles as something to help define how you are becoming a better human being.
Those are pretty wise words.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So, so hopefully, you got some good wisdom out of this. This was a fun one to chat through with you and our viewers, and we look forward to chatting again next week, and we hope you guys continue to have a fruitful Lenten season.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.